welcome to my channel. I'm Amber, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my weekly reading wrap-up. So this week I DNF'd 2 books. I finished 3, and I'm currently working my way through another. So let's just talk about the DNFs, the first one being Wizard's First World. This is the first book in a 12-book fantasy series. And I wasn't planning to DNF this one when because I was trying to look up something about the book because I was trying to listen to it, but the narrator kept changing like words and phrases inside of the sentences, so that I just find that very disrespectful and just unprofessional. Like, it's one thing if like you accidentally changed a word and it was an accident, and you can tell when it's an accident versus purposeful. But when it got to the point where like every page he was changing something, it made me wonder if like he was reading from a different edition, or if the author like came out with a newer edition where he like changed those sentences himself. Otherwise, I think it's very wrong for the narrator to be doing that. But anyways, I was doing that, and there was like something that was bothering me, like where I had left off in the book, and I just couldn't fully formulate my thoughts on that until I saw a review that really just like zeroed in on what the issue was. So this author apparently, according to this review, in every book he puts in and trigger warning for this, so SA and R, so there's a ghost in the house. Anyways, sexual assault scenes and full-on R scenes have been throughout the series, and that's what was bothering me in this book, because he has a SA scene in there, and one, it didn't really make sense as to like why this scene had to happen. It just didn't make sense with everything that was going on in the scene. And then it's like it was never challenged, it was never resolved, there was no consequences for it, and it just felt like it was there for sensationalism and for the purpose of the main male lead. And I'm tired of this in books, fantasies, maybe even. I'm just like, it's just another way to objectify and use women's trauma to sensationalize or dramatize your book. It has, you know what I mean? So it's just, I'm not willing to put myself through a 12-book series where he just continuously objectifies and treats women like that. So anyways, that was the first book I DNF'd. Then the next one was Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. And if this is the way that she views women and everything, and this is how she writes them in all of her books, I definitely will not be reading any more of her stuff. So this is about Ryan and Misha, who when they were in 5th grade, they were matched to be pen pals, but the thing is they were meant to be pen pals with the same sex as them. So like Misha is a guy, but Ryan's teacher thought that Misha was a girl, and Misha's teacher thought Ryan was a guy. So they matched. They very quickly realized that they were, not. But they just continue on. They become really good friends, and then one day, I think it's like between their senior years, I'm not really sure, Misha goes to a party and actually sees her there, and she's not what she expects. Here's the thing, when I DNF this more for how Ryan is as a person versus Misha, but maybe I would have absolutely started to detest him even more than I already did not like him if I had continued on. According to a review, the fact that he purposefully pretends to be somebody else, he like transfers schools so that he can go there, and I don't know if he was purposely doing that because she was there, or if it had something to do with his personal life. Maybe with a mix, but I don't know like if he purposely like misled her because he was like, revenge for not being who I wanted her to look like or whatever bullshit. So I don't know if that was the case or not, but when we first at the party, and this might be a spoiler, I really don't care, because this is a big issue. It's the fact that like in their letters, like they bond over like Star Trek, Star Wars, like fantasy and sci-fi stuff. And so like he just says, I like I can understand like we all have our pictures of people in our heads. Like if we don't see them, if we're not able to see their face, like we create a picture, and I can understand that you're like being surprised by like, oh, okay, this is not how I pictured you, and then you just adjust and you move on. But no, he literally like is like acting like a complete asshole, and he's like, she's not who I expected. She's hot. How dare she be hot? Like what? So the only way for somebody who's a woman to enjoy fantasy sci-fi is if they are ugly? Come again? It's like it's bad enough that guys think that that women can't enjoy these things, that somehow it's just for men, and but now they have to be ugly in order to enjoy it. And I don't know if this is a challenge if they talk about this later on in the book, and she calls him out on that bullshit, but it just like it was a huge turnoff, like right at the beginning of this book when we were barely getting to know this dude, to have that like hit you in the face. But then we meet Ryan, and Ryan is a self-centered, selfish bully, and I feel like the author is purposely trying to make you sympathize with her. Like, she's just trying to survive high school. I'm just like, there is surviving high school and playing a huge part in bullying other people and being the bully and being the people that others hate. She actively participated in it. She was part of the problem. She was of them. And like, and she knows it too. And it's just, no. You like, it's like the author went out of her way to make two characters that we're supposed to actually root for and care about if they get together or not absolutely detestable. Like, she just went out of her way to make us not like them, which is, I feel like, the opposite of what you want to do when it comes to a romance book where two people are supposed to be falling in love with each other, and you as a reader are supposed to want them to fall for each other. And all I can think of is that they don't belong to each other, because if she ever gets her head out of her ass, she doesn't deserve a guy that thinks that has that kind of misogyny, because it leads into other areas of misogyny. You know what I mean? It's just like, if he thinks that way, what else does he believe? And also, like, this is going to turn into some kind of toxic relationship, because she's a self-centered bitch who thinks it's cool to bully people, and it takes the whole book for her to even come to the realization that she is a bully. I have strong feelings for this. I just absolutely hated the way this book was presenting these characters. And also, I'm tired of the girl hate on girl. I said that wrong. But the girl hating girl thing. I hate that. It's just like, no, we didn't need that. And also, it just made this book even harder to stomach. So I couldn't continue on, because I just absolutely hate the way that this book was presenting both of these characters, and I don't understand why the author felt the need to make me hate these characters. And this is the way that she writes her characters. And also, I don't know, people might get offended by me saying this, but it feels like a very white thing to do when it comes to writing these characters. It just feels very white. So I DNF'd that. Strongly DNF'd it. Now on to the 3 books that I did finish. The first being A Princess in Theory by Alyssa Cole. This is the first book in the companion series named Reluctant Royals. And in this one, we are introduced to Naledi, who is a grad student working in STEM. She is trying to make ends meet while she works her way through grad school with multiple jobs. And she keeps getting these letters, not letters, but emails telling her that she is betrothed to an African prince. And she just kind of is like, yeah, right, and just deletes them. And then we're introduced to Thabisa, who is the African prince, who, realizing that he is being continuously rebuffed, decides to go and introduce himself to her, but she accidentally mistakes him for somebody else, and he decides like, this is my opportunity to be free of my responsibilities for a little bit and get to know her and hopefully try to find a way to, tell her who she really is. And, like, not planning to like fall in love. This was just like out of curiosity's sake to like see who, and like, obviously we know where this is going to go. I absolutely enjoyed this book. Like, these two have such chemistry, and I really enjoyed seeing their relationship blossom and then having to see them kind of like the breaking apart and seeing Naledi having to learn to trust him again. I find it interesting that in several reviews I see like very strong different opinions when it comes to how the author handles the after part of this, where like some people think that the whole rebuilding trust aspect of this story took too long, and then some felt like it didn't take long enough, or they just found it really annoying to have that at all. And I'm just like, okay, I think it's realistic that she would need to have some rebuilding of trust, and I thought it was done and handled very well in my opinion. So I'm like, I landed in the middle of it all, I guess. But I just really enjoyed Naledi, and like right off the bat we see her dealing with being a woman in the workplace, specifically in the world of science. And I just loved towards the end of the book, or the halfway mark, when like she finally like stands up for herself. I really just loved it, and I appreciated the conversations that we see, and just, and all that. And this book absolutely made me laugh out loud, which is something that very rarely happens for me. Thabiso like ends up working as a waiter for like a day, and he like, it's just like the hilarious moment of like him being like at the start being like, oh, how hard could it be to be a waiter, and then at the end of the day he's like, this is hell. And he just like, he's constantly putting his foot in his mouth, he's constantly making mistakes, and it's just like, he's, he's so full of himself, and it's just like, it's nice to see him being put in his place a little bit, and just seeing an outsider seeing the U.S. For the first time, and like realizing like some things that he was right about because he did his research, and then like some things he was wrong about. And it's just like, I loved, this is like stuck in my head when he like, when they're on the subway together, he's riding the subway for the first time, and he's like, this just feels like you're living in a dystopian world. And I'm just like, I think kind of are, and not just because of the subway situation, but yeah. In some ways we are kind of are. So that just really stuck in my head. Overall, I really enjoyed this, but it is very predictable, which I think is understandable considering it is romance. But I just love the romance. I loved seeing Naledi having to like learn that she can ask for help. She can have love in her life, and having to kind of rebuild that trust between her and Thabiso was wonderful to see. But also, there is like a mysterious illness that is happening in Thesolo. So part of this book is told in Thesolo, where she goes to Thesolo to like, be introduced to her family and such. But there's like this whole mystery illness, and like it gets resolved very quickly. And so like the last few chapters I feel has a very rushed feel to it. And I get like the main focus wasn't that, but like I just like didn't, I wish you hadn't even put it in there, because it wasn't really handled very well. But overall, again, like I said, I enjoyed the romance, and which is the main focus of this book. So this gets 4 stars. The next book that I read was Blood Like Magic by Lascelles Sandbury, and I didn't realize, but this book was published this year, and it's the first book in a series. So yeah, that means I'm gonna have to wait for like a year or more to get to the next book. But either way, this book is about Voya, who is a teen witch. She is about to have her calling when this book starts. So the calling is like where your ancestor comes and gives you a task, and I think typically you would get like the option of 2 tasks, but for some reason Voya fails her calling, and surprisingly enough she gets a second chance. But her second chance is she has to kill her first love. If she does not succeed at doing so, every Thomas witch will lose their power, and she has until a certain point. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like I think it's like a month or two away. So yeah, this book was so freaking intense. I absolutely loved it. I love the fact that this book has a very like complex magic system when it comes to like how witches have like how witches use magic and what it entails and what it takes out of you when you use it. Um, and I just really enjoyed seeing like the layers of this world and this family kind of like pulled back. And I was really surprised by this book because I thought this was going to be a predictable YA fantasy where it's more centered on the romance than the actual um, magic. And like it's the thing is like romance is kind of interwoven in this in the sense of like she needs to fall in love in order, because here's the thing, she's never been in love, so she ends up using this genetic matchmaking app in order to find her perfect match, and it ends up being somebody that she doesn't really like. So yes, we have to kind of like see this romance between these two build up. But this book is so much more focused on her family, and I just love this family. I love their dynamics, and I just felt for Foya in so many different ways. But also at the end when she makes a certain choice, I absolutely was so angry with her. Like I'm still angry with her a week after, almost a week after finishing it. I'm just like, how dare you? Like, this is not where I thought you were going to go. When I realized like where this was going, like I just like, how could you do that? Like what? I'm just like, I'm so angry with her, but I just want to get to the next book to see like maybe she can undo it. Maybe the next book will be about her undoing what she did, but would that undo everything else that she did? I don't know. But this is really just a really wonderfully written, complex story, which is something that I feel like we rarely see when it comes to YA. So I absolutely loved it, and I have a hard time talking about it, but like I love the fact that there's so much focus on her family and her relationships with her family, over the romance aspect of this book. So, anyways, obviously I gave this 5 stars, and now like I regretted reading it, but at the same time I'm glad that I read it because I have to like wait for like a year. The last thing that I read was The Hill We Climb by Amanda Gorman. This is her poem that she read at the inauguration. And I wanted the poetry collection, but they still have my library system still hasn't gotten the books. I don't know why. It seems like they should have by this point. I mean, they've had it on order since like whatever it was published. So I was kind of surprised by that, but like I'm not right. I just wanted to read the poem again and see like what it was like reading it. Yeah, I kind of wish I had it in a way because this is like it feels weird reading this. Okay, I get why there needs to be like a hopeful tone, considering. I get it, but it just feels now so further on into the year, it just feels so unrealistic to have that hopeful tone. Like we're still dealing with a pandemic, we're still dealing with people not wearing masks, not getting vaccinated. We had the whole the Haitian refugee situation going on, and just so much more going on in so many different ways. And I'm just like, we were hopeful, and those hopes were like semi dashed. um, so I don't know. In part, I'm just like, why did I read that? It just makes me even more angry on some levels. But either way, it is what it is. I read it. I do like her. I do like her writing, and there are some very good, strong points in there that I enjoyed being refreshed on. But yeah. So what I am currently reading is The Two Towers by J.R. Tolkien, the second part of Lord of the Rings. With this one, I really thought I was going to finish it Saturday, but that didn't happen because I couldn't focus. I did read, okay, I think I read like 50 pages. I was like right in the middle of, yeah, I would say 50 pages. A little bit more than 50 pages actually. But I was like right in the middle of book 5 in this, and now I am like where Frodo and Sam have captured Smeagol or Gollum in a way, and like have like made him swear to protect to help them on their journey. So anyways, hopefully I'll finish this today. Get this over with. Because I was really expecting to be done with this already, but it is better. It is a read. I just gotta remember this is a reread, and also I should not be putting pressure on myself to read. The next two books that I want to read this week, one, The Mime Order, the second book in the Bone Season. I should have read that last week. Again, didn't happen, but hopefully this week I will actually finish it. I had started reading it this last week, but it just never happened that I actually got to it to finish it. So hopefully this week I will actually finish it. And then the next one, I want to be one of these books. So I wanted to share with you all the books I got. I'm not going to talk about what they are like in detail, what they're about in detail, but I'll tell you which one I really want to like start this week. And if I'm able to read more than 3 books, you'll know that at least one of these will be one of them, because I need to actually work on these library books since I have so many out. The first one is When the Stars Go Dark by Paula McLain. This is a mystery of sorts about a woman where a present day crime connects to a crime that happened in her childhood, and she has to kind of like figure out how they're connected in some ways, I think. The Paris Wife, like, I've heard of this author before, I've just never read anything by this author. So I thought I would try with this. And then the next one is The Palace of Illusions by this author. This is set in India, and it's a myth retelling where this princess has 5 husbands. And I don't know if like she had them all at once, or if it was like divorce or death, and then because I'm just like, one husband is more than enough in my opinion, I would think. So the next one is If I Tell You the Truth by Jasmine Kaur. Trigger warnings for sexual assault and victim blaming, police brutality, immigrant trauma, domestic violence, alcoholism, depression, anxiety. Yeah, this one I'm being very drawn to, but this is not the one that I really want to start this week if I have the option to. The Widows of Malabar Hill by Sujata Massey. This is set in India in 1921. It's like a mystery of sorts. The Third Son's Charm by Shanna Galen, a Regency romance, I believe. It's a bodyguard type romance. Written in the Stars by Alexandra Bellafleur, a queer romance where they fake date. It kind of gives me Hallmark vibes in the sense, like, if you've watched any Hallmark films, you'll know those holiday films where like they get tired of their parents' family griping about them being single and like, why aren't you with somebody? Which is just so, yeah. And so they end up like, whether they like them or not, getting somebody to pretend to be their boyfriend or whatever, and brings them home. It kind of has that vibe coming off of it, but also it has like the Pride and Prejudice vibes coming off of it also. So very much looking forward to this. Then And Now She's Gone by Rachel Hazel Hall. This is like a cat and mouse game type story. I think it's a thriller. Then the last book that I picked up, and this one is the one that I will most likely end up picking up as my 3rd book for the week, Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long. This is about Hessa, who is an Yangi, a battle-hardened priestess of the goddess of war. So she has the power to turn enemies' bones into dust by a scream, which makes me think of a banshee, but I don't know if I'm correct about that. But she ends up being banished for disobeying her goddess's command to murder a traveler. While she's gone praying for forgiveness, raiders burn her town to the ground. So she is all alone. She's the last of the Yangi now, and she must find the traveler and atone for her weakness. And I think she believes that her refusal to to fulfill this cause this to happen, I'm thinking. But as clans from the north and legionaries from the south tear through her homeland, slaughtering everyone in their path, Hessa strives to embed her goddess's favor. Beset by zealot soldiers, deceitful gods, and newly awakened demons at every turn, Hessa burns her path towards redemption and revenge. But her journey reveals a harrowing truth. The gods are dying, and the high halls of the afterlife are fading. Soon Hessa's trust in her goddess weakens with every unheeded prayer. Thrust into a battle between the gods of the old war and the new, Hessa realizes there is far more on the line than securing a life beyond her own death. Bigger, older powers slumber beneath the surface of her world, and they're about to wake. So every time I read this analysis, it makes me more excited to pick this up. This is also a 2021 release, which I did not realize. I mean, I knew this book looked very new, but I just thought maybe they just, was able to get a new copy. But either way, I'm very much looking forward to reading this. I don't know if this is going to be a standalone or if it's going to be a series. I really hope that it's a standalone because I've started way too many series that are not complete yet, especially ones that are not, even don't even know when they're going to be published. So hopefully it's a standalone. But again, I'm very excited. So that is everything that I've DNF'd, read, reading, hopefully going to be reading. I would love to hear if you read any of these things, what you thought of them, and what you all have been reading. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.